in Brightloop so that you can record your conferring notes there. First, you could go to brightlooplearning.com and you're going to click on Try Brightloop Free. It's really easy to set up, and once you're in, you will see a page like this where you can create a new classroom. I have already created some classrooms to try it out, so I'm going to click on my 2E classroom. And you can see that I have several students added, and anytime I need to add a new student, I just click on Add Student, type in the first name and the last initial, and I even have the option to put an image with the child's name. And then I could save. At the top, so the first step is that we want to collect. This is the first step. You would record all of your notes in your conferring each day. And there are different subject areas. You could record notes on math, reading, writing, or behavior. But today we're going to focus on reading and writing. I'm first going to choose writing. And you can see that within the subject of writing, we have many different categories. And within each category, so for example, if I click on mechanics, I have all the objectives for mechanics, and I can add new objectives at any time. I can also add categories, and I created a category for realistic fiction because that's the first unit that we were teaching in grade 2. So with realistic fiction, I added objectives, and these objectives came straight from the grade 2 rubric for realistic fiction. So if I click on ideas, I have my standard, which is chooses a realistic fiction idea. And that's from the first line of the second grade rubric. And as I go down, each objective matches with one of the indicators that I'm assessing from the rubric. So I'm going to select meaning, and under meaning, it shows the standard. Writer develops a story that makes sense and has a clear beginning and end. So I could select this is something I want to focus on. And once I've selected that for a student, I can come down to goal. And as I confer with that student, I could record here what my teaching point is for that student, that I want them to develop a story that makes sense and has a clear beginning and end. And I could also record what are my next steps. And the next steps could be to add a clear ending to the story. And I save it. Now that I've decided on a goal for this student, I could also create a lesson. So this would be a specific plan to help the student meet the goal. So I could say the student should plan story using a story mountain. And this could be one way that they could focus on having a clear ending. And I would save that. And each day as I meet with students, I could record the teaching point here under goal. Now I can also go back up here and choose a different subject. So I'm going to focus on reading now. And you can see there are many different categories for reading. I added a category for characters. And my 3 objectives came from the second grade reading rubric, the reading assessments that we're going to start using this year. So character response is the first objective, and I've listed the standard that came straight from the second grade reading assessment. So I have 3 objectives. And now I could choose one of these. I'll choose point of view. And going over here, instead of selecting one student, I could select multiple students. So maybe I know that these 4 students need help with point of view. And so I could create a goal for them to help with point of view. And I think part of the standard was to read with expression using different character voices. So I would say that this is a goal for this group, and then I could even create a specific lesson for the students that would go along with that goal. So once I've collected evidence and through my conferring and groups, I could go back up to menu and now move on to review. And here I can select on a student and see all of my notes that have been taken for this student. So I can see last week I marked that he needs attention in math, was on track in other areas. I have his goal of creating a story mountain and the lesson that I'll be working on with him. So you could go through and quickly check in on each student there. Then if I go back to menu, I can go over to plan, the final step. And this is where I can see the whole week and look at what days I want to meet with each student, or especially with strategy groups. So if I go to Tuesday, I could see any lessons that I have planned. And I think if I change this to writing, I could see that I have 2 strategy groups planned. These are the students that I want to meet with to help create a story mountain. And then I also have a group that I would meet with in reading to work on reading out loud, adding periods. This is also for writing. But I could create groups in reading as well. One final thing that I'll show in the collecting phase that's really helpful are the little indicators down here. You can choose if the student needs attention, on track, or ahead. And this could be really helpful for planning more challenging activities for students that need a challenge, or making sure that you give extra attention to those who need it. And any time that you need to change the classroom settings, there's a little key right here. And that is it for Brightloop, which should be really helpful for keeping notes and conferring. Thank you.